We're going to go ahead and there you go.
All right, thank you for inviting me here today. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about what we do at the Wisconsin Board for People with Developmental Disabilities. My name is Jenny Newgart. I am the grassroots outreach person for the board. So I'm always trying to do things like this so people know about us and hopefully can, tap into some of the things that we do and make, some of their dreams a reality. So I'm basically going to give you an overview of what is the board, what projects do we have, and how you might want to interact with us in the future. So we're going to run through some slides here. First, like the broad overview of Bpdd is that it's a federally mandated program. So every state in the United States has at least one board for people with developmental disabilities. A lot of places call them DD councils. So it's in the federal law that we have one, and we're really about statewide advocacy. We're trying to find innovation that can be replicated in other places. Our job is to kind of, know what's going on for people with disabilities in our state, what are some of the most pressing needs, and then develop ways that we can address those needs. And we also do a lot around public policy, so that we can focus on systemic change and not just on, helping a handful of people, but making sure that we're accessing, making improvements that will impact the larger communities. So we're always looking at, what are we doing and how can we do it better? And that really needs to involve hearing from people with disabilities with lived experience. So we do a lot of that outreach. Our guiding plan, if you will, is a 5-year state plan that every DD council is required to submit. So we are in our first year of this 5-year plan. So our projects look a little bit different. If you're familiar with us from before, there's been just a few changes with this new 5-year plan. What we do, how we come up with our 5-year plan is going out and talking to the public. Unfortunately, we couldn't do a lot of that with COVID, but we got creative about surveys and trying to tap into places where people were already meeting virtually and get feedback as best we could from mostly people with disabilities, but also their caregivers, sometimes service providers, to see what are the issues that we keep hearing about over and over throughout the state. And basically the ones that rise to the top, the ones we hear about the most, are the ones that we focus our 5-year plan on and develop projects around. So this doesn't just come from the staff. This really is being informed by the state. I did want to mention, though, we can't fund direct services or like demonstration projects. So there are certain things that sometimes people misunderstand about the board. That's just not our charge. We're just not allowed to do that kind of direct service work, like providing personal cares or something like that. So this is a really small snapshot. I have a 2-page overview here of what we came up with. So there's 2 main goal areas. And the first one is around making sure that people with disabilities and their families can participate in inclusive activities that they choose. So we heard a lot about, the issue with isolation, not being connected to communities, not having enough friends, those kinds of things. So we came up with a few ideas. You can see specific objectives under this overarching goal, including we want people to know about the supports that are available and how they can access them. We want to work with more families of color with young children with disabilities There's a huge gap there of people not connecting to services that are available, just not knowing about it, or maybe not having enough trust in the system. So we're going to focus specifically on some families who have younger children. We want to work with legislators and policymakers to improve the lives of people with disabilities. That's something we do all the time. That's not new. We're always working with legislators and policymakers. And then our second goal is that children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities are seen as valued members of their community. We're looking at ways that people can have one feel less lonely, making sure that people have more choices about their everyday lives, increasing the number of self-advocates or people with disabilities who are involved in advocacy, and supporting more people with disabilities to be leaders. So there's several different ways that we can do that. This here is a list of pretty much all of the projects that we have at Bpdd that connect to those goals and objectives in some way. I'm not going to talk about all of them. I kind of picked the ones that I thought were most pertinent to your organization from the background that you gave me. But if you go to our website, if you see something I don't talk about that sort of piqued your interest, you will find information about all of these. So the first one I want to talk to you about is the supported decision-making project. We were pretty instrumental in getting a law passed in 2018 that makes supported decision-making a legal alternative to guardianship. So it's basically just this concept that you can get support to help you make decisions. And it doesn't have to be a guardian that takes away your rights. You can name a supporter who will then have access to things that they might need to have access, like, maybe you need financial support. Maybe it's a power of attorney for healthcare. There's all different levels of support that people can provide that you can access without having to take rights away and go to court and be declared incompetent. And we want to make people understand that there are options. So it's still fairly new. People are still learning about it and what does this really mean. So we have a booklet here. This is kind of a snapshot of the cover of the booklet. We have a whole toolkit that includes the papers for naming a supporter. It's actually very easy to fill out those forms and to pick a supporter, to change a supporter. A supporter is a person that helps you make those decisions. So you can kind of think of it like if my car broke down and I don't know anything about cars, so I not wanting to trust the mechanic, who would I go to make a decision about, do I have all these repairs done? I would go to my brother-in-law. He knows everything there is to know about cars. Supported decision making is kind of the same thing. You reach out to people you trust to talk through an issue, and ultimately you come to your own decision. And that toolkit is available to download right off our internet or our website, and we can also mail the hard copies of it. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the Wisconsin Self-Determination Conference. Hopefully some of you have experienced this conference before. You've got the dates here for next year. We're planning that it will be in person again. It's been a couple of years. So we're hoping that that we're still on track with doing that because people really miss it in person. It's almost like a reunion every year. There's so many self-advocates that go, and that might be the only time of year they see each other. So it's really a conference that's by people with disabilities, for people with disabilities, and it's all around, self-direction and making your own choices. So it's a really mixed audience. It's a really just fun experience if you've never been. We really encourage you to check that out. Almost every session has a self-advocate who's either leading the session or is a co-presenter. That's a very important aspect of the conference for us, is that self-advocates are truly meaningfully involved throughout the whole conference. And there's fun things that we do. There's a dance. One year there was a talent show. There are micro enterprise vendors, so people with disabilities that make crafts that you can purchase, exhibitors that you can talk to. It's a great time. So mark your calendars for October 17th and 19th. The next thing that we're really trying to make people be aware of is the self-determination channel that we put together. It's on YouTube. So if you are a YouTube lover and have an account, you can subscribe to this channel so that you get the new videos as they come out. And some of you might know Stacy. She uses an AAC device. She's got her own program called Stewing with Stacy, where she talks about different issues. And she's one of the overall hosts of the channel. But there's so many topics on that channel. They did a whole series on COVID and coping with that, especially when it first came out, finding caregivers. There's a bunch about employment. There's a couple on technology, a bunch about self-advocacy and just, using those skills. And they're all really short videos. They're usually just a couple of minutes. So I encourage you to go check those out. The newest one is Philip here, just moved out into his own apartment. So a new video was released in the last week or two about Philip's experience with that. So check that out, share it with your friends. Sparks Grants is one of the projects that I oversee. And you may have heard about the Sparks Grants in the past. They did change with this new year 5-year plan focus of trying to get people with disabilities more connected to their communities and having those social connections. So the grants now are really focused on trying to find agencies that don't typically work with people with disabilities and make sure that they're included. So our current grantees, we've got a couple of YMCAs. We have a Asperger's group that does game nights. We're working with the Girl Scouts, a public library, that all have different ways that they can include people in their community activities instead of creating like a separate, we're going to have a special autism children's reading program. We want to see this more integrated. So this is kind of new. We got 20 applications. Our first time out with these grants, which was really great. We don't usually have that many. So something to keep in mind, I think, for your organization, you might have ideas or know people with ideas to do a better job integrating people in the community. So you would be eligible to apply. Grants can go up to it's usually 500 to 5,000 a project, and applications for next year will be out in June. And they run October 1st to September 30th. So I just want you to be aware of that in case you have a idea rolling around that you might want to seek some funding for. The Youth Leadership Forum, it's another project that I oversee, and it's really near and dear to my heart. I was able to start the YLF back in 2000 when it was first brought to Wisconsin. It was created in California, actually, and several states have adopted the program. It's a week-long program for up to 25, 30 high school students with disabilities who want to sharpen their leadership skills and learn some self-advocacy skills. It's typically in July, and it's on the Edgewood College campus in Madison. So they stay there the whole week. It's an overnight program. They get experience living in the dorms, eating in the cafeteria, so they kind of get a feel of college. We talk about voting, employment, planning for college, what that might look like. We go to the state capitol. They meet their legislators. There's a talent show, a dance, a mentor picnic. It's a really great time. Then we pack a lot into the week, and a lot of people have made lifelong friends coming to this program. So we just closed applications for this year. But again, it's something I just kind of wanted you to know about in case, I don't know if you have connections to this age group. But we're always looking for, people to recruit for the program. So typically we'd start looking around, January, February, and we are actually notifying who got selected this week. And partners in policy making it's sort of similar to the YLF, but it's for adults. So this is a program that meets 6 times, pretty much over, it's like a school year. So we start in October, and every 5-6 weeks we meet through April to talk about it's the history of the disability rights movement is a big part of it. I think people need to understand where we've come from and why we need people to keep fighting so we don't lose our rights. We talk about, what should true integrated employment look like? What should inclusive education look like? Living in the community. So we try to do a foundation of critical areas of living like that. And then we get into, like the legislative process. What does, how does a bill become a law? Tips on meeting with your legislator, developing a relationship with them and the importance of that. We do role plays. We practice testifying at hearings. We talk about every session, you get an update from our policy person at Bpdd about current policy issues going on right now that people can advocate for or against, depending on what it is. And we learn about, grassroots organization and engaging in the community and how you can be a more effective advocate. So people who've gone through it have said that it's life-changing. It's changed people's career paths. In the past, they've completely changed careers. We've had a lot of partners, grads, run for like school board or some other office. So it really opens up a world of opportunities, I think. So again, this is for parents who have children under the age of 21, and then adult people with disabilities who are over the age of 21. So something to think about. In a couple months, we'll have applications out for the next year that will start in October. We have a very active disability vote coalition that is focused on making sure people with disabilities know their rights, understand how to get registered, understand their civic responsibility to vote, and just helping through the process of, how do you sign up for absentee voting, or how do I know where my polling place is, or finding my municipal clerk. Any question related to voting, if you have a disability, the Disability Vote Coalition has the answer for, and will walk you through. So it's a coalition that's co-led by the Board for People with Developmental Disabilities and Disability Rights Wisconsin. And then the larger coalition are any agency who wants to be involved and has a passion for voting. So we have like 4 independent living centers, the League of Women Voters, somebody from the Multiple Sclerosis Society is on there. It's really the blind, the Coalition for the Blind and Visually Impaired are represented. And we all just get together and talk, and what are the pressing issues? We've got a couple subcommittees to really dive down into some specific issues with accessibility and educating the public. We have lots of resources, fact sheets, videos, those kinds of things. If you're on Facebook, I really encourage you to like us. We're very active on Facebook. And then you can always get a hold of us through this is a hotline you can call at any time. If you have a question about voting or you're just stumped by something, you just call that number and we walk you through whatever the problem is, or you can email us. So I encourage you, if voting is your thing, feel free to get in touch with me or check out the website to sign up. You can either be part of the coalition that meets monthly, or you could even just sign up to get like our email newsletters. And if there's anything pressing, like, these bills are coming out, we need you to talk to legislators, you'd get an email about that. So there's different levels of how you could be involved with voting issues. Disability Advocacy Day, I'm wondering if some people have participated in that in the past. The last one was in March, and we did do that virtually again. So I think it was the third year it was virtual. It's basically a day of action where you learn about some key issues such as caregiving. That was a big one that we talked about, and voting at Disability Advocacy Day this year. You learn about the issues, you get some basically talking points of what you could say to your legislators. And then you get to meet with a facilitator that sort of helps you figure out what's the story you want to tell, because telling a story to a legislator, it really sticks and it helps them remember the issue. Getting that all situated, and then we want people to, in this case, it was virtual, so call when we were done and let the legislators know what your issues are. When we're in person, we actually usually do it at the Monona Terrace, and then we walk the 2 blocks to the Capitol where you can meet in person with your legislators, and there's a rally. So it's a really nice way to be involved in advocacy. Maybe even dip your toe in the water if you haven't done a lot of that. It's a really safe space to do it, and it's just a fun event that really gets you pumped up. So that is the end of the slideshow. Let me just stop sharing here and see if there's any questions.
Thank you so very much for sharing all of that. That's such great information and so many things going on and things that people can get involved with.
Yes, there's plenty, whatever your interest is, there's plenty that you can do if you're looking for different ways to, interact with us. We also have a very interactive Facebook page. So if you haven't liked us and you really want to get a taste of who we are, or I always tell people, check out our Facebook page.
And what is the name of the Facebook page, just so people can find it?
Wisconsin Board for People with Developmental Disabilities, WI.
Okay.
Board for People.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then, how do people find out about all of these events and things coming up? Is that your Facebook page is the best place to kind of keep updated with what's happening currently?
Facebook, our website. You can also sign up through our website or just by contacting me to be on our listserv.
Okay.
And if you are on our listserv, you'll get we do a monthly newsletter, and then we do have some action alerts if there's something we really want advocates to reach out to their legislators about. Those don't happen too often because we're very sensitive about not overloading your mailboxes. That's probably the best way because it'll go directly to your email inbox, and you'll know, when those applications come out for any of those things, you will know.
I am wondering if you can talk about letting your families know about everything you do.
Yeah, so, our outreach is really, a lot of our outreach was going to conferences and having tables and just trying to meet people. So a lot of that was curbed the last couple years, and everybody's trying to make the best of it virtually, but it really did cut down on our outreach quite a bit. But that we do that a lot. We try to get out in the community and do festivals, like Disability Pride Fest, Juneteenth. We try to develop relationships with people in different communities who we know a lot of people. And kind of make inroads that way and spread the word. We're always growing that email list, our listserv and our Facebook page. So there's really a variety of ways that we try to reach out and let people know that, you know, we're here and this is, you know, what our charge is. And, you know, we're always happy for opportunities like this to reach out to people that we have not had a chance to talk to before.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I think that's a great point. I mean, trying to connect with people right now is harder than ever. So I'm really glad that you have the time to come and talk to us, tell us about what you do, and we can kind of hopefully help spread the word also.
Yes. Yeah. So we appreciate it. It's a great opportunity for us.
Wonderful.
Oh, well, one thing I forgot to mention, because I just finished it last night, I'm working with a young adult who was chosen as one of just 6 fellows in the country through SARTAC. It's the Self-Advocacy Resource and Technical Assistance Center. And these fellows have a project they've identified that they want to work on. And his project is looking at the process for getting durable medical equipment. And I think AAC devices fall under that, right? You have to get like a prior authorization and go through that process, and you may get denials and have to start over. Is that right? Okay. So I'm wondering if I put that link on the survey, if you'd be willing to maybe send that out, or I have a separate email or Facebook post you could use to help us spread the word on that survey.
If you send the link, we'll definitely share that out. And I'm guessing Mike maybe could do that in AAC network also. Perfect.
That would be great. Thank you. That's a little more time limited, but I'll put that in with the stuff I sent you. So
perfect. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here.
All right.